Are women evil, or is that just a social construction? My name is Natalia Szeibert, and we are going to be talking about feminine evil and its depictions through things like Greek mythology, the Bible, the media, and gender stereotypes. Before we get into all of that, first we're going to talk about how women being associated with evil is a social construction, having to do with gender. Gender in itself is a social construction. Gender is when someone is male, female, both, or there is an absence of gender. Gender binary is a system of conceptualizing gender as having two distinct and opposing groups, such as men versus women. The gender binary is of course instilled through gender stereotypes, therefore gender is a social construction, and it's also upheld through the patriarchy. Gender stereotypes specifically are a set of shared cultural beliefs about men, women, and non-binary people's behaviors, appearance, interests, personality, and so on. Through gender stereotypes, women can be seen as caring yet emotional, submissive, and manipulative. Meanwhile, male counterparts are perceived as aggressive, ambitious, and well respected by society, which is misogynistic. Through the textbook, they talk about how gender stereotypes are powerful and seem harmless, and people privately believe that women are emotional and submissive, and men are intelligent and leaders. They are not harmless. The gender stereotypes are not harmless in that they shape our patriarchal society and influence misogynistic ideals and lead to the vilification of women. Gender stereotypes can also play a role into feminine evil, which will be discussed within the next two slides. And then here's what I was referring to from the text about adjectives used to describe men versus women. Now we will be discussing how the Bible feeds into the woman as evil narrative. The textbook talks about something called feminine evil, which is defined as the belief that women are the source of evil or immorality in the world. Specifically, in the Bible, Eve was the temptress who ate the apple, going against God's orders, and for that reason, innocence was lost in the world. From a psychological perspective, Eve was not inherently evil, no matter how much the Bible and some Christians would like to vilify her, but rather she was manipulated into thinking it was okay to eat an apple from the tree of knowledge. She had one voice, God telling her to not indulge, and a snake telling her that it's okay, and the snake consumed the apple. But the snake was disguised as the devil. Eve then convinced Adam to eat the apple, and for this reason she is marked as the source of evil we know today. But it is not Eve who created or allowed for this evil. Rather free will is at fault, and as is the devil and the serpent. For this reason, the Bible feeds into the feminine evil narrative we know today, which subjects women to the vilification of their gender. Some extreme examples of feminine evil can be depicted through the Salem witch trials, in which women were being persecuted in the beginning of the Middle Ages and persisting into Puritan America, guided by the Catholic Church, and torturing or putting to death unknown numbers of witches, majority of whom were accused of tried were women. And Lou Taylor conspired against Britney Spears in a conservatorship because of her rebellious behavior, and concerned that she was plagued with the devil. She harassed her and her family to eventually restrain her for over a decade against her will, and now she is free from that conservatorship, but she endured trauma because of the portrayal of her possibly being inflicted with the devil. There are also a lot of popular conspiracy theory videos that circulate the internet, and they are accusing primarily female musicians of being a Satanist, especially if you play their song backwards. This is rooted in evangelicalism and QAnon right-wing conspiracy theories.
The robot hand, as we all know, is the first sign that you're heading to the dark side.
So that was an example of a conspiracy theory video vilifying a female musician. And then the last example is women of color being vilified for practicing voodoo when it was really to get back at their oppressors. So black women practicing dark magic were demonized, when really they were just not conforming to Christianity, permeating globally, and punishing their oppressors who put them through abuse. Now we will be talking about feminine evil through the media, such as how Jennifer's Body, when it first came out in 2009, was widely misunderstood as it was marketed to men. Now we will be discussing feminine evil through the media, and how Jennifer's Body in 2009, when it was initially released, was a widely misunderstood film. Jennifer Check is played by Megan Fox, and Needy is played by Amanda Seyfried. In the film, Jennifer and Needy go to a local indie show at a bar, and then Jennifer flirts with the lead singer, and the lead singer represents the devil, as he attempts to sacrifice her as a virgin when she is not a virgin, but lied about being a virgin. The place sets on fire, and leading only Jennifer, Needy, and the band members to survive, as the band members are responsible for setting the place on fire. Jennifer is sacrificed because they're under the impression that she's a virgin, and then because the spell backfired, she then becomes a succubus, and in order to sustain her life source, she becomes a man-eater. Jennifer is portrayed as evil throughout the film, when in reality she was a victim and was sexualized for being a virgin. The band wanted overnight success, so they wanted to sacrifice her. This movie's original target audience perceived Jennifer as evil and crazy, but hot, when the film was a lot more than that, and Jennifer was not the feminine evil that they thought she was, and she only became this way because she became possessed with an entity. Instead of faulting Jennifer for being evil, the only people to blame is the devil, Low Shoulder, the music industry, and, in extreme sense, the patriarchy, for finding corrupt ways to go after an impressionable. Content warning is advised for this slide, as mentions of Medusa being assaulted is mentioned, and just like how Jennifer was forced to become a succubus, Medusa was forced upon by Poseidon, and Medusa is commonly portrayed as the monster who could turn men to stone, when really Athena is the one who punished her for this and blamed her for what Poseidon did. And Medusa was previously had a golden appearance and then turned into an ugly monster with snakes surrounding her head. The snakes can actually be perceived as a response to the male gaze and empowerment, yet she is vilified for her snakes attacking the men who gaze at her, and she is perceived as evil for this reason. So there is a common theme in all of these women being portrayed as evil. Through feminine evil and male as normative, the patriarchy is being upheld. The patriarchy describes the socialized and institutionalized oppression that women are subject to through allowing men to uphold power that women are majorly exempt from. And misogyny, Women are sexualized yet vilified, mocked, and demonized. The portrayal as women as evil and a deviation from the norm, which is what male as normative is, men are able to be at the top of a social hierarchy, especially if other privileges such as wealth and whiteness are assets that belong to a male on an individual level. So previously we discussed how men are seen as leaders and ambitious, while women are seen as submissive, yet evil and emotional. And we wonder why. So, in conclusion, through the Bible and mythology, we are taught at a young age to believe that women are evil. Through the socialization of the patriarchy and misogynistic ideals, such as male as normative, women being seen as a deviation from the norm, and what is not masculine is abnormal or flawed, through viewing complex movies like Jennifer's Body, which were originally catered to women, and how they are commonly misunderstood, and the female leads are associated with evil, when really they have been subject to horrific traumas and finding the best ways to cope and make it out alive, just like Medusa. Assuming the feminine is dark, but the masculine is light, would make gender and the stereotypes that come with gender a social construction that negatively reinforce patriarchal and misogynistic ideals.